Hey folks, Freddie here. Welcome to this Yin Yoga practice. So in this practice, we will begin with a short meditation, following that move through just a really simple, easy, mobilizing few minutes of flow. And then we'll move into the yin poses. So each of the yin poses we'll be in for between 3 and 5 minutes, depending on the pose. And for your yin practice, you may already know which props that you like to have, but just in case, maybe as a little reminder, it can be nice to have some cushions, maybe a bolster of some sort. Actually, this can come in quite handy for your yin practice, but we won't be using it today. Can be quite nice to have some blocks, which we have here. And you may like to have a couple of layers or a blanket to throw over you. We'll have a lovely relaxing shavasana at the end of the practice. So take a moment to pause the recording, get your bits, get cozy. Feel free to have a mat beneath you. I don't, because we won't be doing any particularly strenuous movements today, and I'm on carpet, so that's kind of giving me a cushioned feeling. And I think that that's all we need to cover as we begin. Of course, as usual, I'll be keeping time as we move through the practice, so just listen to my voice, have a look at the screen occasionally, and enjoy. So let's begin in seated meditation for about 5 minutes. So get yourself comfy in a seated position. I will be using my phone here to keep time. Noticing the parts of the body that connect with the earth, and in what way they connect with the earth. Checking how evenly balanced you feel on both sit bones, maybe just rocking from one side to the other to get a felt sense of the balance between the sit bones. And in a seated position, the sit bones are kind of like the roots that connect with the earth. The jaw is soft, the throat soft, the shoulders are relaxed. And if it's a case that there's any tension in the jaw or the throat or the shoulders, can you discover what configuration you might need to get yourself into so that it's possible for that tension to dissipate? And as you move into stillness, you might even notice the corners of the lips coming to make the shape of a smile. Connecting to a sense of softness and ease in the body. Nothing to do. Simply being. And in a few moments, we'll return to eyes open. Take a moment to simply let the eyes go where they want to go. Allowing any spontaneous movements or breaths to find their way into expression. Let's take a gentle twist by bringing the left hand to the right knee. We bring the right hand behind the body. And so the twist begins in the lower spine and raises up. So the last thing that moves backwards is the head, starting at the bottom of the spine, spiraling backwards gently. And changing to the opposite side, right hand to left knee, left hand behind the back. Gently spiraling down so that the gaze goes somewhere behind you. And while you're twisting, it's possible for the belly to be soft. Belly breath is possible. Coming back to center, bringing the hands to the ground in front. Maybe feeling a little stretch in the legs. Starting with a flat back. And then gradually just releasing the head. pausing here for a breath. And slowly returning to center. Bringing the right hand to the side. Left hand raises up overhead. Stretching through the left side body as you come over to the right. Gaze maybe straight ahead or up in the hand. And changing to the other side. Left hand to the side. Right hand raising up towards the sky and reaching over to the left side. And it might be nice to just mobilize the neck gently here, but if there's any feeling of tension or discomfort in the neck, just letting the gaze be soft and gentle straight in front of you, accommodating the neck in any way necessary. And switching back to the other side. Feeling a stretch through the left side body. Switching to the opposite side. And feeling the stretch in the right side body. One last time, right hand to the right side, left hand reaching over, stretching through the left side. Left hand on the ground, right hand reaching overhead. Let's come to all fours now. Here we are, simply moving through a few rounds of Marjorie Asana, cat-cow, dropping the belly. Gaze goes high to the sky. Rounding through the back. Inhale, dropping the belly. Alternating at your own pace. The hands are active here, pressing actively into the palms of the hands, because the hands are a really wonderful support as we move through tabletop or down dog. So there's a sense of the roots of the fingers supporting us as we're in tabletop. The heel of the hand supporting us. Maybe even the fingertips just maybe softly pressing into the ground. Coming back to seated. And we'll start by moving into a wide-kneed child's pose. We'll be here for a few minutes. So in child's pose, it can be really nice to have a bolster. Might have a bolster to lie the torso on top of. You may prefer not to, in which case that's go with your preference always. If there's any discomfort behind the knees, a feeling of compression or just too much pressure, it can be really nice to bring something in that space behind the knees. So you could fold up a blanket. Here we are. Pop it down between the knees. just eases a little bit of that pressure, and then move into the pose. Similarly, you could have something at the front of the pelvis here to ease any tension or feeling of extra compression that you might experience as you bring the torso forwards. So finding what feels good for you there, and we'll be in this position for 5 minutes. As we move forward, just stretching the hands out in front if that feels good. That doesn't feel so supportive for your comfort, the hands might be down to the sides, either sides of the knees. And if you're leaning on a bolster, it can be a really lovely feeling of support beneath the heart space. And it can be really pleasant to simply just release into that feeling of support. Might be nice to alternate, have the head to one side for a little while and then to the other. Eyes closed or open. Because we take a little bit more time in yin poses, we can gradually release into the pose. So keeping that in mind as we move through the practice. There's no need to push into our end range as we come into a pose, because the body, the tension in the body naturally flows away. When we give it time and space to release at its own pace. Maybe taking your movement cues from the breath. It's always a good sign in a yin practice if the breath feels soft and easy and unrestricted. And in a few seconds, we'll start to come out of the pose. So using your hands to push yourself back to a seated position. Just taking a moment to recalibrate here. How are we now? Noticing the emotional landscape. Orientating to whatever is pleasant. Maybe elaborating that in your imagination. Being with whatever images support ease or a feeling of joy. So removing any props here, coming into a wide-legged seated position. Just bring the hands, walk the hands forward a little. Feeling a stretch in the legs. Finding your ideal distance for now. And just taking a few seconds here as we reset. And next we'll move into a shoelace position. So let's start with the left leg beneath the right leg. So left knee points forwards, right leg on top of left leg. The knees are sort of stacked above each other. Now, if the knees aren't stacked on top of each other, it can be quite nice to bring a cushion in here for a little bit of extra padding. The idea in these poses is that we're reducing that feeling of holding as much as we can, which is one of the main reasons why we use props. So this is kind of your opportunity to experiment a little bit and figure out what it is that might be the perfect device in order to reduce that sensation of holding if you're encountering a sensation of holding anywhere. Playing around with the position of the legs. Tighter, looser, more space, less space. If this position is uncomfortable or just doesn't feel like it's so available today, it's possible to also go with this position. So in this case, the right foot is above the right knee. The right knee is above the left foot. More of a sort of square position. So getting your perfect configuration, either in shoelace or in square. And we'll be here for 3 minutes. So I'm just going to return to shoelace for a little while. You may even quite like to kind of move between them, starting off with shoelace and ending with square or the other way around. Is it possible to have the hands on the ground, maybe even walk them forwards a little bit? Is it better for you today to have a straight back here, or to let the back be rounded, release the weight of the head? For me, the stretch is in the right side thigh. Where's the stretch for you? Because each of our anatomies are ever so slightly different, you might be experiencing a stretch in a different part of the body. If the eyes are closed, letting the eyes be really soft. Like cotton. Like a gentle breeze. Like a sigh. The tongue is soft. So many possibilities here. And then we'll gradually release this side. Let's just move straight on to switching to the opposite side. So if the left leg is on the floor, now let's switch to the right leg being on the floor. So that means that the right knee will point forwards, crossing the left leg over the right leg, left knee on top, right knee on the ground. Choosing what feels good here. Would you like to have a cushion between the knees? Would it even be good to have a cushion maybe beneath the butt on one side? Making any little wriggles or adjustments that feel necessary. And here we are on this side. So this is an opportunity, as every pose is an opportunity, to really start slow. We have time in these poses to explore sensation, to explore how different positions feel. Also to get a little bit more defined on how to describe different sensations. Noticing the difference between something that feels pleasant and something that feels uncomfortable. Making that radical shift from efforting to simply finding ease and pleasure in simple movement. This doesn't have to be hard. Yin is a really lovely opportunity for us to find out what it means for us to take our time. never extending beyond our capacity. Maybe even using this as a sort of laboratory in order to understand our capacity and how that differs from one day to the next, from one season to the next. Appreciating how movements can feel quite different on one side of the body to the other. So we're just slowly getting ready to come out of this pose. Slowly, slowly. Finding the perfect pace at which to release the legs here. Bringing the legs out in front, maybe giving them a little shake, maybe a little pummeling. Gentle pummeling is really great for the lymphatic system. I'm just taking a moment here in this L sit to notice the weather. What's the internal weather report? Taking stock. What's clear? Next we'll move into a twist. So having maybe a cushion for behind your head. There we are. Starting with the feet standing, the knees pointing up towards the sky. In this pose, the hands can be out in a T. And just kind of, again, experimenting whether a T feels good for you or if it's nice to have the arms out lower. This can be a lovely stretch for the inner arms, which is where the heart lines are located. So in this twist, it depends on what feels good for you. So you can have the left leg crossed over the right leg, and then simply rotate the body to the right side. On this occasion, when I'm rotated to the right side, the stretch feels more intense in my left arm. So here I've got my palms facing up towards the ceiling, and I can rotate my head to the left palm, so I'm gazing over to that side if I like. The alternative is to move into this pose without the legs crossed. So both knees up to the ceiling, simply rotating to the right. See which feels better, maybe exploring both. If there's quite an intense stretch on the left side of the body, it can be quite nice to alleviate that somewhat by having a couple of cushions underneath the upper knee. Possibly just scanning the body, starting at the feet. Maybe starting with the right side first, right foot, right knee, right hip, right side body, right hand and arm, right side of the head and face, and travelling down the left side, head and face, left hand and arm, left side body all the way down to the left knee, left calf and foot. We'll begin to get ready to come out of this pose, and taking your time, I like to give a little stretch to the top leg. So on this occasion it's the left leg. So extending the left leg, bringing the foot to standing, knee to the ceiling, and then just kind of swishing back so that I'm on my back. And here we are. Just taking a moment to lie here, maybe letting the knees drop in towards each other. Constructive rest. And switching sides from wherever you are, I'm just going to move so that I don't have my butt pointing at you. So this time the right leg will cross over the left, rotating the body towards the floor on the left side. Checking out how this feels. Are the arms in a T? Does that feel good? I'm just noticing for me on this side, there's a little bit more of a feeling of compression in the right hip. And so I'm just going to ease that a little bit actually by using some cushions. Figure out the way to ease that. It's always quite nice in yin practice to have your props as close as possible, so you can just reach around and grab whatever it is that you need. And all of these poses that we're moving through today are really great for the digestive system. Twists especially are really wonderful for the digestive system, and for mobilizing the organs. And Yin is such a lovely practice for developing a sense of the language of the body. So here we are with a few seconds left on this side. Starting to consider how we'll move from here. So for me, it's going to be quite nice to just extend that right leg. Just flexing and extending the foot a little, noticing a bit of a stretch in my calf. And coming back to lie on the back. And here we are in the perfect position for Shavasana. So Shavasana is, for many, already an absolutely perfect pose. I quite like to have a bolster underneath sort of thighs, knees kind of area. It supports my lower back nicely. Sometimes there can be a bit of a feeling of compression in the lower back, or just a little bit of discomfort in Shavasana, and I often suggest to my students to put a bolster underneath the thighs in order to alleviate that. And if you have an eye pillow for this part of the practice, that would be ideal. And we may not have an eye pillow, but if you just have something close to hand to throw over the eyes, it could be quite nice. Might like your blanket. Shavasana is a lovely opportunity to simply absorb all of that good stuff from the practice. Let it all settle. Let all of the nourishment be absorbed. Without time for pausing, we don't get the opportunity to absorb the nourishment that we might otherwise absorb. So, taking moments to pause, to slow down, to change pace, downshift. Really supports the system. really supports us to come into right relationship with what is, to be present to what is. And in a few moments, we'll return to seated position. So just taking a moment to reconfigure yourself in whatever way you need to in order to make that possible. Maybe removing covering from the eyes, and removing the bolster from beneath my legs. Just bringing the knees in towards the chest, maybe rolling from side to side. Rolling back up to seated. Thank you for joining me in this practice. I love to imagine us all together practicing, creating little pockets of calm, peacefulness, and tranquility wherever we are. Blessings as always.